Everyone knows that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. But why? Let's talk about adenosine triphosphate. This is the basis for vital processes such as muscle contraction and cell signaling. When this molecule interacts with water, the third phosphate on the end breaks off, turning into adenosine diphosphate. This releases energy, which allows those vital processes to occur. Obviously, if ATP can do all of that, it's extremely valuable. So how do we get it? In humans, it's derived from the sugars in our diet. But in plants, they can derive these sugars themselves. Isn't life just so unfair? But how exactly does glucose turn into ATP? Cellular respiration is the key to this conversion. The first step in cellular respiration is glycolysis. Lysis meaning to cut, and glyco meaning our lovely 6-carbon glucose, which is then cut into 2 pyruvic acids. However, in order to cut glucose, we need an investment of 2 ATP. It's kind of like when you put money into the stock market in hopes of making more in the future. In this scenario, we get those 2 ATP back, but we also get 2 NADH. Spoiler alert, these are hydrogen electron carriers that are going to be especially important for the last step. The next step is the link reaction, where a pyruvate is taken into the mitochondria and turned into acetyl-CoA. This is done by the pyruvate dehydrogenase complex, and in this step, we also get 2 NADH. However, the original pyruvate has 3 carbons, while this acetyl-CoA only has 2. So, where did those other carbons go? Well, they turn into CO2. The third stage is called the citric acid cycle, and this occurs in the matrix of the mitochondria. In this cycle, we take acetyl-CoA and combine it with oxaloacetate to create citric acid. Citric acid goes through multiple other transformations in this cycle, leaving us with more products. However, the net total for all of our steps is going to be 4 ATP, 10 NADH, and 2 FADH2, which is another hydrogen electron carrier. Now, at the moment, this may not seem like a lot of ATP, but we're finally at our last step, oxidative phosphorylation. This step begins with the electron transport chain. The electrons in the NADH and FADH2 are carried down a series of protein carrier molecules. The electrons are moved down this chain until they meet with oxygen, forming H2O or water. As the NADH and FADH2 lose their electrons, the hydrogens create a hydrogen-proton gradient. Essentially, the hydrogen ions are pumped from the inner mitochondrial matrix into the intermembrane space. But the hydrogen can only go through a specific channel known as ATP synthase, which at the end of it has ADP and a phosphate. The flow of hydrogen ions through this channel binds the ADP and the phosphate together, making ATP, and a lot of it. Considering in just this one step, 30 to 32 ATP is produced. So now you know that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell because of ATP synthesis.